But then the fourth year, I finally had some chicks come and like beg to be on my team. I was like, okay, we're doing this. And one of them hooked up with 3 different dudes during the summer, and I was like, wait a minute, now she's sitting next to this one. I was like, is that not awkward for that dude like 4 chairs down? You know what I mean?
I'm dead. No, exactly. Like all the back rubs on the different guys.
Yeah,
like, I literally sit and watch it like my first summer, like 8 girls to like, 20 dudes, and I just see different ones. I'm like, wow, like it's a TV show.
I literally, like, I'm like Bachelor in Paradise, like, just Bachelorette, like straight up. And I was just like, it happened. But they all slayed. So I was like, I'm making money, you're making money. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? Okay, so let's speak to this because a few things came up, and I think a lot of female knockers actually get into this, almost this trap of, well, I'll compete with the other females, or I can't sell as many because I'm female, and I'm like, guys, like, well, let's break the walls down, and people got mad at me. I posted on the Tribe page, and I was like, hey, I want like a female panel and some women empowerment stuff, and I'm like, it's not to be sexist at all. Like, I'm like, it's just to simply help that mindset.
Yeah, and alongside with that, like what I'm looking at in this industry, like how many people and recruiters do you know that are setting up booths in like Vegas or Arizona or Florida or all these other places, and we're forgetting 40% of like the population of women in our backyards. This isn't like I want to do a men versus women. I just want to be able to like make it a neutral count. Yes, for women to be like, holy cow, I can find success. Like these guys are doing it, like why not me? Like that's all that I'm trying to bring to this space, is those quiet women that I found on my team, those loud, obnoxious, like voluptuous women like me on the team. Like if we are given the tools and if we are given like everything that we're needed to find success, and just more importantly seeing other women win, we don't have to go to different states to recruit. Like just polish the women behind your back door. Like that's crazy. What I'm trying to open up, is just like there's not enough of us women who feel like we can win, because myself and companies, we're not just creating that space for them to see that they can.
Yeah, and it's just because it's like they're the minority, like to a massive minority.
Yes.
And so you're like, is this possible? And to me, I'm like, no, guys, the mission of DDD was to unify, up-level, bring honor and integrity to the door-to-door space.
I love that.
And it's like, we need to up-level that in the sense of course, there's space for women to crush in this space. And in my opinion, like my little sister came out, she was 18, she graduated high school. This was back in like 2011. 2013.
Wait, which one?
My little sister Emily.
And she slayed it in pest control.
Yes. So she sold with me before her mission.
Yeah.
And so she came and sold with you guys. And so she slays, comes out for a month and kicked all the dudes' ass. And I was like, what's up? This 18-year-old graduates high school. I was like, taggart in the veins, baby. I was like, don't let me down.
Emily is a good breed, though.
And then she hits me up after a mission. She's like, where should I go, Sam? Because I'm like, I don't have a home for you. Like, I'm doing this thing,
I'm everywhere.
And I was like, I'm everywhere but nowhere. But go to Aptive, and, I hooked him up with you guys. And then also slayed, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I just, like, for me, my girlfriend slays. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I'm all about, like,
yes.
It doesn't matter. I just think, here's the stereotype. Okay, so here's and I'm, throw mud at me, hit me with the thumbs down if I say this, okay. So my first 3 years managing, I was like, I'm not gonna recruit any girls. There's no way.
Same with me.
And so you said the same thing.
I did the same thing.
Okay, so there's some commonality here, and she's female, so don't get mad at me when I say this stuff.
Yes.
So I was like, why? One, they cause drama.
Yes.
Well, my girlfriend went and made out with some dude when I sent her to, so I go, Mia, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, I'm just giving you out. So I sent her out to a blitz team. I was like, hey, go with these guys. Ends up hooking up with a dude. I was like, you're creating the drama. Everything that I stereotype. Like I was like, good job.
I want to meet her.
I was like, good job. Keep it up. And I was like, what the freak? And I'm like, that right there is why I didn't recruit girls for 3 years. You know what I mean? I was like, there's this element of the dudes are like, wow, I'm lonely, hot chick.
Yes.
And you're just like, ah. Yes. And it's like, there can't just be a business relationship.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I was scared of. But then the fourth year, I finally had some chicks come and like beg to be on my team. I was like, okay, we're doing this. And one of them hooked up with 3 different dudes during the summer, and I was like, wait a minute, now she's sitting next to this one. I was like, is that not awkward for that dude, like 4 chairs down? You know what I mean?
I'm dead. No, exactly. Like all the back rubs on the different guys.
Yeah,
like,
no.
I literally sit and watch it like my first summer, like 8 girls to like, 20 dudes, and I just see different ones. I'm like, wow, like it's a TV show.
I literally, like, I'm like Bachelor in Paradise, like, just Bachelorette, like straight up. And I was just like, it happened. But they all slaved. So I was like, I'm making money, you're making money. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? But then, so that's stereotype number 1. So first, if you're a female, keep business. Like, in my opinion, just be like, I'm here to work, stay out of my like.
Yes.
Like, that's my 2 cents. Do you have any advice
Those
for
are
that?
the girls that I have found for sure. Yes, I mean, sadly enough, like every single summer, like you're gonna have the ones where they end up dating and marrying each other. I mean, I had that this last summer.
Yeah.
So, like, but yes, I feel like if we're actually just setting the expectations with them while we're sitting down, it just makes it a lot easier. Because the ones that I've had that were like dating other people on the team, they're just like, look, during the week I don't know you, but on the off hours or like whatnot, if we go and do all these kinds of things, it just made it to where it was just like this mutual understanding that's like, if I'm gonna date, it's gonna be outside of like work hours, like type of thing. And it was great. Like my girls just like slated and they ended up dating people during the summer, but it didn't affect them.
Cool.
On the team.
That's good advice.
Yes.
If I'm gonna date you, I don't know you during the week. That's the line.
Yes.
Okay, number 2. They're just soft. They're too emotional. They're too, they get too thin of skin. Speak to that.
Yeah, and we are. So I'll be honest. I think this is why the industry was really good for me. I grew up having to just kind of like shove and hide my emotions like my whole life, and so I've done it for like the last forever. It wasn't even until 3 years ago that I actually started having the same emotions that women does. And so I was the type, like just like you, I felt like I was a woman stuck in a man's body, because my mindset was like, suck it up. Like guys would like tell me like, oh my gosh, like I just like lost my dog or whatever, and I'm like, but is your dog gonna pay your bills? Or like, I mean, like, so I was just never really empathetic. I came from the background of just kind of like what male team leaders think. It wasn't until 3 years ago, I actually had my uterus removed. And with doing that, a lot of things happen. Either you become opposite of where you were before, or you're exactly the same. And I am so opposite emotionally of where I'm at, that I am now like feeling and understanding a lot of like the women's side of me in being like more emotional, being more in tune with like my feelings. But I had to learn, how is it that I can help women up level and still have those same emotions? And so for me, that's the journey that I've been on these last 3 years, is now I'm the exact same way as all the women that I'm wanting to bring as far as like emotionally, but I'm learning to up level and kind of hone those emotions.
What a blessing. Because you also had the 7-8 years of just not. Because you can now empathize with that side. Because you're like, now the man's bringing the masculine, and it doesn't necessarily mean man or female, it's just that masculine energy tends to be just like, go to war, shoot the bad people, and don't cry when you get your arm cut off. Keep fighting. You know what I mean?
Like I definitely took emotion like out of knocking, but I just in these last like several years, like I feel like had I been more of the way that I am now, I probably would have found like a lot more success in recruiting, a lot more success on the doors, just a lot more success overall, I feel like.
So it's awareness. This is what I always say. It's whether you're a man or female, it's the awareness when you need to bring in the masculine side, and awareness when you need to bring in the feminine side. And this is where a lot of men make terrible managers, is when they have a rep coming to them and they're like, I'm just depressed and I can't seem to sell, and then they're just like, suck it up, dude. And like, they're not asking you to say suck it up and like get to work. They're asking you to empathize with them and feel them, then level them up to where you are, right?
Yes, and even I made those mistakes too. As a female team leader, I would do those same things, like suck it up. And how many of those reps chose not to come back or like felt unheard? Whereas like since I've been on this journey, like I even have like people who aren't even like knocking period and just like, holy cow, like just, I want to just thank you for how much you like cared. Like you've changed my life in other ways that has nothing to do with door to door. And those are the things that excites me a lot more, on the value that they're getting from you, that they're taking, even if they choose not to come back.
Love that. Yeah, because that's the big thing is it's there's an energy that everybody needs. There's the nurturer and then there's the warrior, right? And it's kind of this element of, as a leader, you're a supporter, you're a manager, you're a nurturer, you're a therapist. And
Yes.
I had a similar switch actually a few years back when I started going to a lot more counseling, and then I'm sitting there in marriage counseling, like, oh, okay, yes, counselor, wise man, I am an idiot, and you're just like, oh, I needed that, and I learned a ton of the psychology and the difference between the masculine and the feminine. I've studied that a lot, and sadly, or actually, I'm not gonna say sadly, like it was my choice, and it was a blessing that I was like, hey, this isn't right, and it hasn't been for a long time. Let's just cut ties, but it really brought more empathy to when I'm coaching or helping or training, and I'm just like, oh, I need to not just be a robot warrior that, and I think there's a level of, it's a level of leadership, it's a level of leveling up to bring awareness to that dynamic.
And people can feel it too. As I'm listening to like some of your content and stuff, you can actually see like a shift if people have been like following you for a while, like just some of the topics that you talk about and address now in comparison from the beginning, like you can see it.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same journey, so I'm with you. And it's funny, like somebody asked me, this is funny. This is a great question. I was in a sales boot camp the last 2 days in Arizona, and a guy goes, Sam today versus Sam in his prime, like 400 account Sam, which one sells more now?
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I think actually the old Sam, which was weird. I said, why? I said my intentions and my interests have shifted quite a bit, and I said, I actually probably would empathize too much with customers, and I probably wouldn't be a savage. Like I'd probably be like, "You're right, don't do this." Like I'm way more. I have way more feminine energy in me right now, and I'm like,
I feel the same.
I know, and I'm like, crap. My savageness of just like, we're doing this now, and we're doing like, there is no, and you're doing this no matter what. Like I
feel the same.
So there is an element of understanding and awareness to that balance between the warrior, the nurturer, the king, the gatherer, the hunter. You know what I mean? There's this natural, like it's in our DNA. God put us this way for a reason, guys, and it's bringing awareness. We have all the dynamics. It's just we've suppressed one. Like your whole life, you were raised to kind of suppress one. I'm assuming. Do you have a lot of brothers?
And so I'm the oldest of 6, but I was also like not raised with my family siblings either.
I was gonna say, like a lot of people, like if they're the 5th child and they have all these older brothers that beat them up, they could not show emotion or else they'd get smashed, right? So that kid is like, he had to learn how to just hide all of his crying, or like, the oldest might have this empowerment feeling because they're like, I'm already the oldest and I need to be in charge of all this, and they feel, so just even from young childhood phase, it's been ingrained to say, what did we suppress and what did we highlight? How did our parents teach us to like deal with emotions, or it's stuff that we didn't even consciously do growing up, and now we have to unpack that and be like, oh, I have all these emotions. Yes. Where have they been?
Yeah, and it's not until like I've been, same thing, therapy, and a lot of people that I talk to, I'm like, they think that therapy is like taboo and whatnot. And I look at like our mental space as just like exercising, or like when we're doing 75 hard or eating better. Like if we're not exercising these things, like we're never gonna get better at it. And I wish that I had started sooner on figuring out like my emotions and my feelings and exactly like how that it's gonna help me in this industry, like in this space. Like I feel like that I've finally been in the mindset, and I'm still trying to learn boundaries because I feel like I'm where you're at right now, in the sense of like, I feel like I'm too empathetic, where I'm like reps that people won't even like give 6, 7, 8 chances to. I'm like, oh, come on, like I'll help you out, like go and like knock with them or whatnot. Or even like customers, I tell my reps all the time, if I feel like I'm gonna screw them over, if I feel like it's not a good fit for them, I'm letting you know I'm not gonna sign them up. Like they're not getting it if I don't feel right. And the old Sully like might have just been like bulldozing and just like everything, like all you no, you suck, like get out of here. And then yes, I'm gonna sign up everyone and their moms and dogs, and I don't care what happens, kind of thing. So I truly feel like the whole concept of being able to understand and be able to like empathize is going to be like for our benefit, like in this industry. And I feel like that's all it's needed for women to be able to be a part of this space. Like I'm looking at some of the women in all these different industries and like just the value that they're bringing to the table, like how companies are just growing or having like better stats because they were given the opportunity to be able to be there. And I just want to keep bringing that to awareness.
I'm speaking in an all women's conference this month.
When and where?
October in Dallas in October, and it's 400 women, and they say they're like, Sam, we want you to speak. Not because you're cute, but just because when it comes to speaking.
I love that.
They're like, we only have 2 dudes speaking, and all the rest it's me and another dude, and everybody else in the conference is women. And I'm like,
wow.
And I'm excited. I'm like, okay, cool. Like,
I'm definitely gonna get a ticket to that.
Yeah, so it's in your backyard. So
yes.
I'll invite you.